My neighbor told me to keep the sex a little louder at night, but this is my wedding house. I haven't even moved in yet. Only my fiancée Haley and I have keys to the house. So I went to the security office to check the security cameras. And sure enough, I saw Haley come in a couple days ago. She was followed by two strong, dark-skinned men. And that's when it happened. The cleaning lady said the house was too dirty. She wanted to charge me extra for sanitation. Took a picture of a bunch of used condoms. I rushed over there immediately. I was dumbfounded by what I saw. I stood straight on the spot. Bottles all over the place. Snack remnants all over the place. The living room was a pigsty. The bedroom was even worse. The bed sheets were in disarray. There were puddles of yellow stains on them. The trash can was filled with toilet paper. There were also a couple of large, used aphrodisiacs covering the surface. I felt my heart break. I slumped against the wall in disbelief. What had my fiancé done behind my back? The cleaning lady said, "Young man, let's do this. I'll clean up your mess. I'll give you an extra $200. I said, "No, auntie." I gave the cleaning lady $100 for the trip. I closed the door to the bridal chamber. My face was a mass of bruises. That's when Haley called. "What's going on? Did you miss me?" I forced a smile on my face. "Yes, I did. By the way, what's Haley's brother Tony doing these days?" "He's my future brother-in-law. He's back home. Doesn't do anything all day. He's not working. Why are you asking him all of a sudden?" Haley's tone of voice was very quiet. Doesn't sound like she's lying. It's not her brother. Then she's the one who's looking for a man in the marital home. On my way downstairs, I was walking down the stairs and an old lady buying groceries brushed past me. Then she suddenly stopped. She turned to me and asked me what floor I was on. I told her it was the east wing on the 8th floor. The woman's face instantly sank. Young people are young too, but there are some things you can do without affecting others. I live next door to you. I have a teenage child at home. Can't you keep it down when you have sex at night? I paused. I nodded my head in embarrassment and apologized. "Auntie, I'll be more careful next time." "Oh yes, let me leave you a contact information. We are neighbors. We can look out for each other in the future." Auntie glanced at me and said, "In the future, be careful not to make so much noise at night." She was very upset and dragged my cart away. She went upstairs without looking back. I immediately went to the neighborhood surveillance room. I bought a few boxes of cigarettes for the security guard. I asked him to look at the security video of the entrance of our neighborhood. The security guard happily agreed. About 3 or 4 days backward, one day at around 5 p.m., Haley appeared from the surveillance video. She was accompanied by two young men, strong and sturdy, over 20 centimeters taller than her. I got goosebumps. I'm watching Haley's expression change. She's enjoying herself, biting her lower lip, twisting her waist in front of her. The two men behind her would occasionally grab her ass with their big black hands. After the breakup, the two bodybuilders smiled at each other. Their eyes were full of teasing and lust. Haley was shaking all over. It wasn't like she was faking it. It was like a stress reaction. My hands were gripping the notebook on the desktop. It was creaking. The security guy picked up on it. Asked my buddy, "Do you know this woman?" "Yes, my first distant cousin." He pursed his lips. "He looks like he's sorry." Shook his head. "Man, don't blame me for talking. Your cousin's gonna be famous in this neighborhood. Other people have sex with normal people. She even had sex with two bodybuilders. She's not a bad-looking girl. Why does she like to be a whore? Since she's from your distant family, I won't be shy. Let's just say that her body is so small. Can she withstand bodybuilders' stick? If she catches AIDS or something, I don't know which honest man will take over." Leaving the neighborhood, I sat in the car and didn't start. All I could think about was Haley playing with someone else in our marital home. This bitch is doing this behind my back. Haley sent me a message. "Is your husband still at work? I'm at your house. Your mom and dad made a lot of good food. I'll be back soon. I miss you." I was so sick I wanted to throw up. When I got home, Haley took my arm as if she was petting me. "Honey, guess what I bought you today? It's your favorite chocolate. It's different from the ones in China. I asked someone to bring it back from overseas. Try it." Haley helped me open it. As soon as I saw the dark chocolate, my face immediately changed. I pushed it away. "What's wrong?" Haley looked at me with big eyes. This bitch can really act. She's got something on her mind. She looked like she had nothing to do with it. I wanted to ask her questions right there, or even slap her around a little bit, but on second thought, the best I could do was break off the engagement. The best I could get would be an annulment. I wouldn't be able to get back at that bitch Haley and those two foreign bodybuilders. It's too easy for them. It's okay. I'm a little bitter these days. I don't feel like eating chocolate. "Yeah, well, it's been a few days since you've kissed my sweet lips." Haley pressed her face against mine. She was about to kiss me, but she was interrupted when my parents came out with the groceries. I felt like I'd survived. I can't imagine having a mouth that's eaten a black cock. If she touched my lips, I'd never be able to wash it off. During dinner, my parents talked about getting married. Haley said her parents want a dowry of $800,000. Now that she has a house, they want to buy her a $300,000 car. My family has money. It's not a big deal, honestly, but I couldn't help but ask how much your family is contributing to the gift. Haley froze. My parents immediately blamed me. I laughed, and I said to Haley, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding you. What's with the dowry and what's without? Haley sighed in relief. She punched me on the chest. She was going to stay the night, but I found a reason to leave for work. I didn't go far. I just wanted to see if this Haley's desire was getting the better of her. She could handle it. And sure enough, not long after, Haley showed up in the underground parking lot. This woman is very cautious. First, she went to my parking spot to see if my car was there. After making sure it wasn't there, she couldn't wait to pull out her cell phone. She whined and said she'd get me another date with those two guys. Same price as last time, right? Now in the underground parking lot of Dragon 1 Mansion, my eyes suddenly enlarged. Haley, this bitch's conception of the world has once again been refreshed in my cognition. She's actually soliciting prostitutes, taking my monthly allowance to find a money boy to play with her. The funny thing is, she doesn't even have the money for a room. She had to use the marital home. My teeth were rattling in my mouth. I was so relieved. This kind of person doesn't deserve me to be angry with her, but I'm interested in torturing her. I'd like to ruin her reputation. She'll be all over the internet. A light smile on my lips, I leaned over the steering wheel and watched Haley with interest from the shadows. After about a half hour, a cheap van pulled up next to Haley. Two bodybuilders got out of the van, the same ones from the surveillance camera, and when they got out, they took Haley in their arms. Haley's legs were clenched. I guess the tanning horse got soft. She couldn't hide the excitement on her face. After they drove off, I followed them. Our destination was still our wedding home. I don't know if Haley's smart or retarded. She's usually so good at acting, but then she took the risk of coming here. Hasn't she thought about how the neighborhood will look at her if I don't find out we're getting married? What the neighborhood would think of her if I didn't find out I was marrying her? I just waited in the car for the call. I met the next door neighbor today. She looks like a hothead. I hope she won't hold back. Just as I expected. When the time came, it was 9:30 a.m. A strange phone call came in. I answered it immediately. I didn't wait to speak. The person on the other side of the line was cursing at me. The voice was familiar. It's the lady next door. What's going on? What time is it? Can't you stop? If this keeps up, I don't give a damn about your neighbors. I'll call the police. If you have the guts, call the police. It's so cold. She was so provocative. Andy froze for a while on the other end of the phone. Bastard, you wait for me. Not long after, the police car really came. They've been upstairs for about half an hour. The lights went out in the living room of the wedding house. Cops showed up at the top of the stairs with two bodybuilders and Haley. Haley could barely walk. Mr. Policeman, let me explain. We're just friends. We didn't do any of that gangbanging stuff you're talking about. Don't try to talk your way out of it. We don't know if we've done it or not. I'm telling you, public lewdness is punishable by 10 to 15 days detention, a fine of $500 to $1,000. Prepare to notify your family. After hearing what the police said, Haley was scared out of her wits, stopped right in her tracks and played dumb. She wouldn't go with the police when the two bodybuilders tried to escape, but they were overpowered by the police. Into the police car. I don't want to go. Please let me go. I'm getting married soon. I can't have a criminal record. My husband mustn't know. I'm warning you. Don't mess around. Otherwise, we will take coercive measures. First warning. Warning number 2. The arm that took Haley was roughly taped to her back. Cold handcuffs. Cold handcuffs were placed on her, and she was driven out of the neighborhood in a special car. I smiled in triumph. I called her parents right away and told them I'd made some specialties and sent them over overnight. I went to Haley's house almost without stopping. Her parents were mean as hell. I'll never forget the first time I came here. I never forgot the first time I came here because I didn't show that my family had any money. They were on my ass for over an hour. Almost got kicked out. Haley didn't know about my family either. I didn't think she was a wealthy woman. That's why I went out with her. Until they saw me drive away in my BMW. And when they went back the second time, their attitudes changed dramatically. They were more sweet than Haley ever was. They were warm and fuzzy, serving them good food and wine. I know exactly what they're thinking. They're trying to get their daughter a rich man to help their son out in the future. After all, Haley's brother had a hard time finding a wife, not only because of his family situation. He's a loser himself. Knocked on the door a few times. Soon the door opened. Haley's parents rushed to pick up my stuff. They even laughed and complained. It's not safe to drive this late. They could have delivered it during the day. Of course, I didn't come here to deliver anything. I just wanted to enjoy it. When the police call, if their reflexes and performance skills were better than Haley's, I chatted with them for a while. I checked my watch every now and then. I was a little anxious to wait. At 10:30 p.m., Haley's father's phone finally rang. It was so late. Who was it? Haley's mom asked. Her dad shook his head. Why is the last number of an unknown number 911? When the call came through, the old man said hello and didn't say another word. He just listened to the other side, but his eyes got wider and wider. His hands were shaking with the cell phone. He kept on looking over at me. He kept glancing at me. What's wrong? Is something wrong with your uncle? I pretended to be concerned. The old man gulped. He waved his hand at me. He waved his hand a lot. He was even a bit stiff, just by looking at him. He's not as adaptable as Haley. Finally, the phone hung up. Haley's mom frowned and asked what was wrong. The old man stammered out a laugh and said, "Huh? No, nothing. Harassing phone call. That Boda. I have a favor to ask you. I have a good friend. He went to jail for something a while ago. He needs money for bail. Do you have any money to spare?" Haley's mom gave her a suspicious look. They made simple eye contact. They've been together for decades. I think Haley's mom got it. She's the one who's been around for decades. That's right, Michael. That man was very close to your uncle. He helped your uncle a lot when he was younger. Now he's in trouble. We don't have much money. Do you think it's convenient for you? I had a difficult look on my face. I said, I've just invested in a project. I don't have much liquidity. How about this, uncle? I know a friend. He is in the loan business. Introduce her to you. After hearing what I said, the old man was not happy. I quickly explained that it's okay. Uncle, you can borrow all you want. Don't worry about the interest or the principal. I'll pay it back when the time comes. Really? The old man was happy. I nodded with a smile and said, of course it's true. You've entrusted me with your most important things. This money is nothing. And today I heard from Haley. The bride price is about 800,000 yuan. I think it's better to get $1 million. After all, Tony doesn't have a wife yet. It's easier to get a girlfriend that way. Listening to my words of wisdom, these two are so excited. They're almost dancing. They couldn't contain it. The old man just got the news about his daughter's car accident. The news of his daughter's car accident has just disappeared. He's completely addicted to the joy of money. Well, son-in-law, I'd like to thank you for Haley. The old man was so proud of himself. He said what was on his mind. He's such a fool. I didn't correct him. I left the cell phone number of the lender and left. Haley returned the next day. She came to my house early in the morning. She had dark circles under her eyes. Honey, I miss you. Oh, she actually cried. I held back my inner discomfort. I asked her what happened. She just cried. She didn't say anything. Then suddenly she asked me to marry her. I agreed. Her face was sobbing. It cleared up right away. I said I hadn't been to the bridal chamber for a long time. Today I'll go and see if there's anything else I can add to it. Haley suddenly panicked. She said, honey, I want to discuss something with you. I don't like that neighborhood anymore. Can we move to another neighborhood? I mean, why is he so reckless when he's soliciting for prostitutes? He's not afraid to let the neighbors see him, so he still has this deck of cards in his heart. Honey, I know that house cost a lot of money, but I got a good old man to read it. He said that the house is not compatible with me. Can we do it this way? I don't want the dowry. Give the house to my brother. I'll let my parents pay you back the rest. I know Haley's parents are selfish. They're always trying to get something for their son, but I didn't realize that Haley was the top black woman. A house with over $2 million, and all they're paying for is the dowry. And you're asking your parents to pay it back over time. Can your parents afford it? Honey, are you upset? No. Haley looked at me with baffled eyes. I said, of course I'm not happy. Tony is your brother. He's also my brother-in-law. Since you don't like the suite anymore, why don't you just give it to her? Why do you need more money? When I said that, Haley froze for 10 seconds. She was dumbfounded. I'm sure she didn't believe I could just give her brother over $2 million worth of stuff. I can't believe I would do such a stupid thing. It's just to promote her. I'm going to raise her up to the sky and then drop her on her ass. I'm afraid even of myself when I draw a big cake. Honey, are you telling the truth? Of course it's true, but I hesitated for a while. But I've recently invested in a project. I don't have any cash in hand. Your father borrowed money from me yesterday. He said he wanted to bail out a friend. I asked him to borrow from a loan shark I know, so the house can go to your brother. But if we want to buy a new house, I'm afraid we'll have to take out a new loan. Of course, you don't have to worry about the loan money. In a month's time, I'll be able to get money from this project. It'll be easy to make up for it then. The name of the house. I'm going to put your name on it too. What do you think? Haley nodded with tears in her eyes. She believed everything I said, because even if I don't have money, my parents have money. Didn't even know it was a setup. After we finalized the deal, Haley rushed me to work. After I left, she was in a hurry to get the housekeeper to clean the bridal chamber. I smiled coldly. I called my loan guy to find out how much Haley's dad borrowed yesterday. I was surprised. He took out 200 grand in one fell swoop, way more than he needed to post bail. Shame on him. He doesn't think he's an outsider anymore. When I got off the phone, I called Haley's dad, and her dad lied to me, said she heard someone say the gym needed a lot of money, so she accidentally borrowed too much. She borrowed $200,000 and said he'd pay back the extra money right away. I immediately said no. Uncle, it just so happens that I've just found a program that will make me a lot of money. I'll send my staff over to see you later, teach you how to operate. If you can do it well, this 200,000 can be doubled in a few days. Then you can return the money. As for the profit, keep it. Consider it a token of my appreciation. As son-in-law, I really don't know how to thank you. You're really an asset to our family. I don't know whether it's valuable or not. I just know that if you don't spend this money, I feel uncomfortable. After arranging for the person who came to introduce the project, I asked Haley to look at a house. I saw a 256 square foot house. The asking price was over $6 million because I said the house would be in Haley's name. So Haley's hands were trembling with excitement the whole time. She even started to show off the model house to her friends, but she wasn't happy for long. A friend told her, although this property is luxuriously decorated, belongs to a wealthy neighborhood, but the location is not too good. It's not likely to hold its value. Haley, who has long been a snob, immediately sent out a voice reply disliking the fact that we buy houses to live in, not to sell. If it doesn't hold its value, it doesn't hold its value, as long as we live comfortably. Besides, a cheap house is not good enough for our boda. After she said that, Haley showed a complacent smile. When she saw me staring at her, Haley immediately put away her smile. Pretending to look sad, she said to me, "They say the houses here don't hold their value. If you buy it, you'll lose money. It doesn't matter. It's not for sale. As long as we don't sell, it'll always be worth this much." With a small down payment, Haley became the head of the household and the first payer. I let out a little grunt from the inside. I could already see Haley's future as a millionaire. To celebrate the purchase of the new house, Haley insisted on dragging me to dinner. While waiting for dinner, I deliberately turned on a video. The video was an introduction. Bodybuilder highlights the development of AIDS in bodybuilder, and it mentions several times that the bodybuilder race has a high prevalence of AIDS. The sound on the cell phone was quite loud. I glanced at Haley from time to time, and I noticed that this bitch was getting nervous. She's slowly losing her grip. "What's wrong with you?" I asked her, and Haley smiled stiffly. "It's okay, honey. Wait for me. I'm going to the bathroom." She's been there for about 10 minutes. There's nothing out of the ordinary. When she sat down, I asked her out of the blue, "Do you think women who fall in love with bodybuilder are all motivated by the idea of cannibalism?" Haley froze. She hid her embarrassment with a smile. "I don't know what kind of people look disgusting, and they're in love. I can't even think about it. But I hear bodybuilders got some pretty big weapons." I leaned forward to get close to her. We talked about gossip, going on about the people who slept with bodybuilder. Some of them are sheepdogs, and some of them are just thrill seekers. Is that right? Haley kept avoiding my eyes. I pretended not to see. I withdrew my body. I shook my head bitterly. It's a pity. Bodybuilders' personal life is very messy. Just like the video said, there's a high incidence of AIDS among them. Last year alone, nearly 700,000 people died of AIDS. Of course, even if bodybuilder doesn't have AIDS, even if bodybuilder didn't have AIDS, they're all probably sexually promiscuous. As long as he had too many sexual partners, they get STDs, syphilis, and so on. In some cases, the whole lower body will rot. There are a lot of horrible bitches out there. I have a friend who used to play multiplayer sports. After I found out, I distanced myself from her. Haley was so embarrassed and weak. She used the 36 tricks to make something out of nothing. Almost made me lose my mind. I had to ask her what your friend's name was. Haley paused. "Emily. Isn't Emily your cousin?" "She has the same name as my cousin." The food was served. Until it was finished, Haley didn't dare mention it again. Of course, I didn't ask any more questions. I was afraid I'd give her away. The curtain had just risen on the big show. We can't show the egg now. After dinner, Haley was practically glued to me. Wanted to go to a room with me. I dodged her with some work stuff. I mean, this bitch is probably holding something back. She's afraid she's gonna get AIDS herself. She's trying to pass it on to me in advance. The next morning, Haley left the house in a hurry. I checked the time. It was barely 8 a.m. Looks like the bitch didn't sleep well last night. Probably got scared by the AIDS. She went to the hospital downtown. When she came out after the checkup at 10 o'clock, I pretended to run into her. Haley was so relaxed. She was even walking. She was glowing. I guess she didn't find out. I was a little disappointed, but I didn't take it seriously. I yelled Haley at her right away. Haley turned around and saw me. She hurriedly stuffed the test in her purse, and the smile on her face stiffened. "Honey, what are you doing here?" "The company is organizing a medical checkup." "What are you doing here?" I didn't wait for her to finish. I forcefully pulled the checklist out of her bag. Haley was so scared she tried to grab it from me. I grabbed her arm. She looked puzzled and asked what she was doing with the AIDS test. My voice wasn't loud, but with all the people in the neighborhood, the patients were like they'd heard something they were most interested in. Their eyes were all over the place. Haley was on the the verge of tears. Why don't you tell your husband at home? I want to do it here. Explain to me what's going on. Is there something you're not telling me? I'm not. It's just that at dinner yesterday, you told me so much about AIDS. It sounded scary. I just came by for a checkup. As you can see, everything's fine. Nothing else. I frowned at her. AIDS is most common in women who have had sex with 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 bodybuilder, or women who sleep with bodybuilder. If you didn't do anything, why did you come here for a checkup? The word bodybuilder is like a bomb. There was a lot of chatter around the crowd. Haley's eyes were filled with contempt and disgust. By this time, people were already making short videos. My primary goal is also gradually achieved. Hubby, let me explain. The premarital test also includes AIDS. What does that prove? Haley, with tears in her eyes, and she's asking questions. I didn't know. I thought I had failed her. But before I could ask any more questions, she went into frantic complaining mode. We've been together for 5 years. Don't you know what kind of person I am? In order to be your ideal wife, I've always been careful with my behavior and speech. I don't want people to laugh at me for not being good enough for you. I even spent half a year learning how to cook. When you were at work, the food I brought you wasn't takeout at all. I made them for you myself. During the time I was learning, I even got burned by hot oil. But in order not to be a burden, I had to come to the hospital for checkups on my own, including this checklist today. I think it's time for us to get married. This checklist is not only responsible for me, it's also a responsibility to you. I haven't done anything shameful. Is there anything wrong with Haley's emotional speech? With her tears, the crowd began to have a subtle change of heart. After a little more discussion, they're accusing me of being wrong, for overcomplicating things, and asked me to apologize to Haley. I really admire Haley's acting ability. Let's not talk about her behavior. Let's talk about cooking. Those meals she sent me was definitely takeout, because once I ordered from her cell phone, I didn't note the merchant. I sent her a message in the chat box. It's the same old story, right? There's no such thing as an impermeable wall. It doesn't really make any sense. I didn't ask her to cook. She's just trying to make herself look like a good woman. As for the burns, that's bullshit. Who knows how it got there? Maybe bodybuilder did it. Although I've been wrongly accused myself, Haley has the upper hand. But this is the kind of thing that gets the heat. If you want to turn up the heat, you just have to dislike those who are sober. I put aside my manners and culture and started trading insults with the masses, from 18-year-olds to the 80-year-old man. I argued with every one of them. In the end, the hospital's security guards persuaded me to leave. I finally took the opportunity to get some peace and quiet. I left Haley behind and went back to my house. When I opened the video page of the same city, I've already got 4 or 5 videos of me fighting with people at the central hospital, but the heat wasn't there. I immediately put in $10,000 to add heat. I opened it after lunch and a nap. Good guy. Several videos together, likes alone more than hundreds of thousands of. The comments were almost unanimously in favor of Haley. Some of them are radical feminist. They even threatened to break up with Haley, said I was too controlling, that I was too controlling and would never amount to anything. I don't know who commented on the bottom of the page, but it was hilarious. Do you know what happened? Do you know who the hero is? He's an executive of a conglomerate. He's rich and good looking. His family is an old capitalist. And you say he's a loser? You want to persuade her to break up and then take advantage of the situation, right? Although there is a lot of information in the words, but very few people look at the floor of the building, so it doesn't make much of a difference. Now the internet is full of insults against me. It even made it to the top of the search engine list. Hot search name of a woman tested for AIDS. Her boyfriend suspected her of having a private life. She stormed out of the hospital. The internet spread so fast. Soon my leadership found me, asked me what was going on. All I could tell her was that I could handle it myself. I'm gonna take this to the extreme, and then I was gonna turn it on its head. That night, I thought Haley was gonna come to my door and apologize to me, but what I didn't expect, she was actually selling live, crying about her experience on the air, explaining what happened at the hospital. When it was almost time, suddenly took out the goods to get on the little yellow car. I was amazed by her behavior. It's true that everything is about selling goods in the end. This person is really cheap. She doesn't realize that the more she increases her influence, the worse she'll fall. At 11 p.m., Haley called. She sounded very excited. Hubby, I've gained 100,000 followers overnight. Please forgive me, okay? I really haven't done anything to wrong you. We're both doing well. I can make a lot of money too. Just now, 3 partners want to work with me. They're going to make me a big internet star. I even signed a contract. I laughed and hung up the phone. You're digging the hole you buried yourself in a few meters deeper. You're going to be millions of dollars in debt on your future house. And now you're in default. TSK, 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 TSK. I gave a mysterious friend a call. The two bodybuilders' identity information to investigate clearly. They've been in the country for a long time. Of course, they're not out yet. And after being detained, they'll probably be deported as well. That's why I changed my target to that chicken coop. That night. Then I went to the police station to get Haley's rap sheet. It's all written there. I couldn't stop laughing. Finally, I took a portion of the neighborhood security footage and the photos taken on my cell phone, packed it up and uploaded it to the internet, and declared the authenticity of the information in the microblogging. I also maintain the right to pursue legal action against those who slander me. After a night's work, I woke up to find 99 missed calls on my cell phone. A few were from friends. The rest were all from Haley. I probably guessed it. I immediately went on social media. Oh man, it's all over the place. Most of them were just telling me they were sorry, blinded by the hospital's video and Haley's words. There were a few who were sober, sent me private messages saying they were on my side from the beginning. But there are too many idiots out there supporting my rights. Like Haley's a bitch. She's a fucking disgrace to our country. Let's keep our eyes open. We need to remember this guy. Otherwise, it's not a big deal if she's a different size. Being cuckolded will be the end of it. Oh, it's okay. This kind of underhanded taunts are all over the screen. I can't get enough of it. I can't stop laughing. Finally, I felt more comfortable. At that moment, there was a sharp knock on my door. I opened it. It was Haley. How could you do this to me? Haley was in tears. The first thing she said was a question. I was speechless. What do you mean, Haley? You're coming to the house to ask for an explanation? You're playing threesomes with bodybuilder, and you're asking me why I'm doing this to you. Haley sobbed. If you knew about it, why didn't you just say so? Why are you torturing me like this? If I had made it clear, we'd have broken up. But what about the green hat on my head? So you have to put me on a high pedestal and then pull me down again? Haley looked at me with tears, looked at me in frustration and anger, and continued to say that I was just looking for a little excitement. I'm an adult. I need to do what adults do. But what about you? You won't give it to me. What am I supposed to do? All that aside, you're not responsible for what I've become today. Don't you have any responsibility? Heh fuck. What kind of logic is this woman? If you don't want to lose your face, that's fine. Do you have to rub it on the ground? Come on, Haley. I didn't learn how to talk to assholes. Now we're even. And now that you're here, I'm officially calling it a day. It's over between you and me. I'm closing up shop. Haley's holding out. She won't leave. Hubby, I have nothing left. Just you. Can you not break up with me? I really only had that one time, and I don't have any unclean diseases. Give me another chance, okay? Haley is still trying to defend herself. I was amused by her words. I took out my cell phone and pulled out a few photos and stuck them in front of her eyes. How can you build a wedding house this messy at one time? You've been to a wedding house? Nonsense. If I didn't go there, if I hadn't gone, I wouldn't have pulled the surveillance camera. I wouldn't have followed you. I wouldn't have found out the secret. Haley, do you think I forgot about the suite? And you turned it into your baptism of fire. Honey, I admit I've done this 3 times. I've wronged you 3 times. I beg you to give me a chance. I'm healthy. Please. Haley took my arm. I shook her off. Oh, come on. Your arm's in the pot? I suggest you leave the country. You're gonna have a hell of a time finding a replacement at home. No more mercy. I pushed Haley out of the room and closed the door behind me. Then the next day, Haley came back the next day with her whole family. Her dad tried to make things right. He went up to me and tried to put in a good word. Well, son-in-law, people make mistakes. Your mom and I beat and scolded him yesterday. He won't dare to do it again. Please forgive him this time. Uncle, you're so funny. If it were you, would you forgive him? Of course I would. Are you so sure? Highly? You wait. I went to the kitchen and got a big white carrot. I told his father that if he went to the hospital to check his hemorrhoids, the doctor used this. Are you numb? Son-in-law, this is bullshit. Who in their right mind would use this? Your daughter did. Haley's dad. Come on, don't say anything else. Aunt Brenda, let me tell you something. You two can break up, but your uncle's mortgage and the house in Haley's name, you're on the hook. Haley's mom's wish was the first thing that came out of her mouth. I smiled and said, I know about the house, but it's your daughter's favorite. Didn't you see it when she posted it on her friend's blog? I remember you liking it. The house is hers. It's not mine. Why should I pay the loan? As for the money Uncle borrowed, when did he borrow money? I don't know. Let's take a step back. Even if I did know, I didn't borrow the money. Isn't that a bit cheeky of you? Haley's mom is going to get mad. I'm going to take offense. Auntie, I wanted to show you some mercy. After all, you're an old man, but you can't just stick your face in my face and let me hit you. The other day, you borrowed money from me. Who did you bail out? I don't need to tell you. I'm sorry to be blunt. It's your family who lied to me. I didn't lie to you. You know what? But the program you introduced me to, I lost my ass. Haley's dad finally stopped hiding. He yelled at me. I spread my hands perfunctorily. I did it on purpose. You son of a bitch. I was so angry. Haley's dad was about to make a move. I was calm and collected. kid. I'm not afraid. Keep talking, uncle. I advise you not to do anything rash. Don't forget I have a black belt in Taekwondo. Plus, this is my home. If you get hurt, it's not good. Hubby Haley. He's crying like a baby. I raised my hand and pointed to the door. Get the hell out of here, or I'll call the police. I kicked the four of them out. Before they left, Haley's idiot brother hesitantly turned to my brother-in-law and asked, "Will you give me back the house?" I cut off all contact with Haley. They tried to sue me later, but there was no basis to sue. It was rejected by the lawyers. Then a friend told me that Haley sold the house for over $1.5 million, and the $200,000 that her dad brought in rolled over. Nearly 30 debts of nearly $2 million. It made the already poor Lee family's life even worse. I heard that Haley actually left the country once. To avoid her debt, she screwed her family over, sold almost all their assets, and ended up on the street. All I can say is, she deserved it.